It's my great pleasure tonight to honor a couple to whom this whole event has been dedicated today, yesterday, the day before. You know, years ago, Mother Teresa said to me on Parliament Hill, she said, the beautiful thing about the pro-life movement is that it's ordinary people doing extraordinary things for God. So a couple of years ago, when we were trying to figure out who we were going to dedicate the march to, we decided to devote it and honor all of you. We said we're honoring all the people in the pro-life movement in Canada because you all deserve it. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things for God. And when I told my wife that, she said, there's nobody more ordinary than you are. In the past, we've honored Mary Wagner and Linda Gibbons, two prisoners of conscience. I think Mary Wagner's here today, as a matter of fact. We honored Mary Ellen Douglas, a former organizer, national organizer of Campaign Life Coalition. We honored Father Bob Bedard of the Companions. We honored Karen Morosky, who was the national organizer here in Ottawa. She did a great job, Karen. And so many others. I could go back through 27 years and talk about it. You know, 30 years ago, Miss Nellie Gray, who had started the march in Washington, D.C., the year after the Roe v. Wade decision, said to me, "Why don't you have a march up in Canada?" I said, "Nellie, it's too much work." "Oh, don't be a wuss. You can organize that." Okay, Nellie, the next thing you know, we had a march here in Ottawa. And through the great work of umpteen people, I can still remember when Archbishop Terry Prendergast, now retired, would call me and say, "Jim, it's Terry. I got 2 more bishops coming." He was so enthused, and that year I think we had over 20 bishops that attended the March for Life. So it was just absolutely wonderful. I'd like to honor the Archbishop, the Bishop, and all the clergy that are here, the priests, the nuns. Would you please stand up for all of us to see you? See, all of you are at the core of everything we do. You know, no matter what strategies you come up with, no matter what you do in the pro-life movement, and every part of the pro-life movement is important, not one more than another. Every part of it is important. But it's all because we have at the core our faith in Almighty God. And He's there for us all the time. And no matter what we do wrong, He picks us up. And away we go. No matter what faith community you come from, it's all the same. If you have God at the core of everything you do, then whatever you plan to do is going to be successful eventually. You may not see it, but it's really important that you remember that at all times. Now, the recipient of the great honor of having this whole weekend or week dedicated to them are 2 people that I met 30 years ago. Very shy and humble people, both of them. Angelina Steenstra was with Second-Hand Ministries, and Second Chance Ministries, pardon me. And her spiritual advisor was a wonderful priest, Father Vince Heffernan. Also a very humble guy. And the work that they did was unbelievable. And then 20 years ago, Angelina found Silent No More Awareness. She met Georgette Forney and Janet Morana in Washington, and all of a sudden the fire came And she'll tell you a little bit about Martin Luther King Jr. He had a dream, and she saw that dream coming to Canada. And so the two of them have done a wonderful job over the years. I can still remember when she introduced the late pro-life hero, Father Ted Colleton, to her husband. And he said, "Oh, are you a pole vaulter?" This was at the time of the Olympics. And he said, "No, Father, I'm not a pole, but how did you know my name was Walter?" Father Ted did it much better than that, but nevertheless, it's a great honor to present to all of you here tonight the couple, the married couple, faithful married couple, to whom we've dedicated the march, Angelina and Walter Steenstra. What's behind you?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Glory be to God. Wow. In 2003, I stood on Parliament Hill because Maurice Vellacott asked if I would share my testimony. They had just done so in Washington. And I said yes. And then when I got on the hill, I said, "I don't think I can do this," and I backed away. And Maurice said, "It's okay. I understand." And I stood and I looked around at the crowd, and I just had this conviction that it wasn't about me. And I was given a grace to step forward. The following year, in January, we were supported to go to Washington for the March for Life. I had heard that this new thing had happened in Washington, and I was convicted that we should go, but mostly to commemorate Sarah Elizabeth, who died on American soil in Buffalo, New York. As I stepped on that podium in Washington, D.C., once again, I knew it wasn't about me. And I was convicted that I had to respond to the invitation that had been extended to me by Jim of Campaign Life Coalition to bring the campaign to Canada. And because of our dear Father Vince, who was inspired to start Second Chance Ministry, because he knew that men and women who were hurting after abortion needed a safe place to go, to talk, to work it out, to gather up the story, to commemorate, to personalize, humanize their children, I was able to say yes and to not stand alone. And I would like to first ask Pat Machowski to stand up. Because, thank you, Pat. Because if Pat hadn't responded to the invitation to help me, quote unquote, pull this off, I don't know what we would have done that year, because we came back in January and the first offering of Silent No More in Canada would be on May 13th, 2004, the anniversary of the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II. And Pat gave me everything of her time to do all the organizing. And then I met Dale Barr at the Lift Jesus Higher rally, and I knew she was doing Project Butterfly in Cornwall. And I thought, maybe, is it possible you might want to stand with me? And before long, there were 12 of us. And I'd like to ask all my fellow Silent No More men and women to please stand. Thank you. Thank you for standing for the unborn, for all the men and women that have been hurting in this country. And there's many here that over 20 years have come and repeated. Some are on the other side of the veil. Anita Sontag, Carolyn George, Noelle Thornton. So there were many over the years who've taken the courage to go through the journey of healing and to stand before us and tell their stories. So it's a great honor to stand here on behalf of all the men and women in this country who have entered into that journey of healing. Not everyone is called to stand publicly, but those that respond to that call become a bridge to facing our fears, to taking courage, and to entering into that painful journey that has an outcome of peace and joy and tranquility of order. And so I thank all of you, because the first people to receive us were the pro-life movement in Canada. And we've been privileged to go from coast to coast, working with different organizations to raise awareness about the aftermath, to let people know there is help available, and for those who feel called to stand with us. And so, thank you. But most of all, I would like to thank Walter, because without Walter, there wouldn't be a campaign. Walter likes to stand in the background. For 45 years, Walter has stood with me. And not just with me, but with so many men and women for these 30 plus years that we've been working in the pro-life movement, reaching out to those hurting after abortion. And last, but definitely not least, I thank God. I thank my ancestors for the gift of faith that was passed on to me in baptism, that brought me back to the church, and for all the saints and blesseds of this country that we stand on their shoulders. I thank God for all the graces given to us and given to you. In the words of Mother Cabrini in the latest movie, she said to her nuns when she went back after being diagnosed with a life expectancy of 2.5 years, she said to her nuns, I'm not always going to be with you. So face your fears and lead. And so I offer that invitation to all of you. Let's face our fears and lead Canada. Let's stand for Canada and stand on guard. Thank you.
Wait a minute. You're not getting away that easy. It's my very great pleasure to introduce to you Janet Miranda, one of the co-founders of Silent No More Awareness Campaign.
Thank you, Jim. And of course, when I got wind of Angelina and Walter being honored, I said, I have to do something. But knowing Angelina and Walter, I said, they don't want a plaque or some fancy award because their faith is so deep. So, Angelina and Walter, come here, Walter, take a front. my nickname, by the way, for Walter with the campaign is St. Joseph. Notice you don't hear anything from Walter. He's like, and just like you don't hear from St. Joseph in the Bible, zip. But guess what? Like Angelina said, there wouldn't have been a campaign without Walter. So he has been huge. So on behalf of Father Frank Pavone, Janet Morana, our whole Priest for Life family, our Rachel Vineyard family, instead of a plaque, I have gotten you this beautiful statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and it has a little plaque, look, on the back. Because I didn't want to give you a plaque. I wanted to, so Walter, Angelina gets a statue, the flowers, Walter gets a statue. So God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Just stand for a picture. Okay, you like it?
Yes.
Okay, you got it? Good? Okay. All right.
And so I would not want to leave this podium without thanking Janet and Georgette for all the years that they've supported us to be Silent No More in Canada.
No.
And then I would like to give a special acknowledgement to all the cardinals, bishops, monsignors, priests, religious, and clergy of Canada who've really underpinned us with their love and their prayers. Thank you.